Do you think Chanel and Louis Vuitton are going to come out with a protein shake?
I don't know, but like people,
you never know.
People didn't think that, Chanel or Louis Vuitton, Vuitton has opened restaurants now. They've got a restaurant in the Doha airport. Dior has spas, like that's health and wellness. They're doing treatments, they're, facials, massages. So those brands are moving into these experiential elements as well.
The following podcast is a Healthy Dog production. Welcome to the Healthy Dog Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nigma Talib. I'm a leading naturopathic doctor now for over 20 years, and I've consulted thousands of patients with chronic illnesses. I've had clinics all over the world, and I have a #1 bestseller, Younger Skin Starts in the Gut. Listen, I know there's a lot of health information out there in the health and wellness world, and it can be a bit overwhelming. So I'm here to set the record straight and give you my expertise along with my expert guests here in studio in sunny Los Angeles.
I only take drugs with other people who take them on a regular basis because I don't have time for that.
A lot of chronic diseases stem from mitochondrial dysfunction.
Yes, and you know what I love talking about, right? Poop.
Yes. You can ask me about my poop?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about poop.
Okay, please.
This podcast is your go-to for achieving optimal wellness from the best of beauty and longevity and everything in between, because after all, wellness comes from the inside out. Welcome back to the Healthy Dog Podcast. Today's guest is not only one of the most respected voices in global fashion, he's also a very dear friend of mine. I've always admired his brilliance, his integrity, and the way he brings depth and humanity to an industry that's often overlooked. Imran Amed is a CEO and founder, editor-in-chief of The Business of Fashion, the go-to global authority on the fashion, luxury, and beauty industries. BOF now serves over 100,000 paying members and reaches more than 1 million email subscribers in 190 countries, combining agenda-setting journalism with powerful business insights, career tools, and events. He's Canadian by birth, Indian by ethnicity, East African by heritage, and a Londoner by choice. This episode is more than business. It's about identity, wellness, leadership, and building something meaningful into the modern world. And welcome to the Healthy Dog Podcast, Imran. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So I want to start off by, I know that you started the BOF blog from your sofa in Notting Hill, and I was sitting on that very sofa with you. I don't know how many years ago that was. And look at us now. What was that spark to do that?
Well, it's quite a long road. It wasn't like a spark that I all of a sudden decided to start writing a blog. Ultimately, it was born out of frustration. I had spent most of my career in, very serious, companies and educational institutions. And it was great because I did a lot of exercising of the kind of left analytical side of my brain. But after about 10 years of management consulting and business school, it was the right side of my brain that was atrophying. And I was just feeling like I was walking into that office every day and only using part of my talent. And it left me feeling fairly unsatisfied. Also, the environment that I was working in was, it just wasn't stimulating me in the way that I wanted to be stimulated. I mean, there were really, really smart people there, and they were all from all over the world, but I really like being around creative people. And so after negotiating a few months off with McKinsey, which is where I was working, I went and attended a silent meditation retreat called Vipassana meditation. And actually, I shouldn't call it a retreat because it's not a retreat. It's a lot of work. But silent meditation, 10 days, no reading, no writing, no music.
Wow.
No eye contact. So basically all stimuli are removed. And in that 10-day period, I had a reckoning with myself because I realized I'd been making a lot of decisions about my life and my career in a way that was really about pleasing other people or worrying about what other people think. And I'd built this pretty bulletproof CV, and I'd arrived at this place, and even having that bulletproof CV, I learned that it wasn't bringing me happiness. So clearly, thinking about the steps I took in my life and the decisions I was making, and only considering, what other people would think, it was not working for me. So while I was at this retreat, I called it a retreat again. I really couldn't call it a retreat because it was so much work. We sat there for 10 hours a day.
That's for you to be silent, Imran.
I know, I am not. I'm not an ordinarily silent person.
Or still
person.
Yes.
So I'm sitting there in this room with about 50 other people for 10 hours a day.
Wow.
And in that period, I had a reckoning with myself on a professional level, on a personal level. And, I left that amazing place just outside Cape Town in South Africa. And I flew to Nairobi and I sat down with my parents. And, I'd done a lot in my life thinking about what my parents expected of me. They were immigrants from East Africa to Canada, like your parents.
Like my parents.
And, I really wanted, they had made so many sacrifices for me. I'd received this incredible education. I had all of the things I could want growing up. I had everything I wanted. And so I felt like I had to do what would make them happy. So a big part of freeing myself from those expectations was sitting down with them and explaining that I wanted to make some changes in my life.
Wow.
And they were very supportive. So I flew back from Nairobi back to London. I quit my job. I had one more project, which only reaffirmed that I was making the right decision. And in that period, I started trying to meet people in creative industries. I met people in the music industry, in the television industry, but the industry I was most interested in was fashion. I didn't know anybody in the fashion industry. I didn't know how it worked. I had never worked for any clients in the fashion industry, but growing up, I watched this show called Fashion File.
Yes, so did I.
Yeah.
It's a Canadian thing.
It's a Canadian show, and
Yes.
it was hosted by this guy, Tim Blanks.
Oh my gosh, full
And
circle.
Tim Blanks, I don't know, he was just this guy, and he'd be popping up in Milan, he'd pop up in Paris and New York and all these places, and he just opened up this incredible world, and even from a really young age, I was just mesmerized by this world. So
Yeah.
a friend of mine was working for the British Fashion Council, and she started sneaking me into fashion shows. So I just could see what it was like. And I'd literally she made me this fake photographer press pass, which I still have. And so I'd
I think I remember this.
I'd go in and pretend I was a photographer, which I really wasn't. And I'd stand against the wall and I'd just watch.
Wow.
And it kind of transported me back to watching Tim's show growing up. And so I ended up getting an offer in the television industry, and it just felt like another big corporate job. Mm-hmm. So I ended up meeting someone at a fashion show. We ended up going into business together. We launched a fashion incubator, and that fashion incubator lasted 8 months, and then I had to shut it down. So that's a very long way of saying, while I was setting up that incubator, I had started writing this private, personal blog for my friends and family to kind of share my journey from McKinsey into the fashion industry. And so when my company failed, I took the password off that blog. I created a little banner that said the business of fashion. And that was January 2007. And the reason I decided to do that was not because I necessarily wanted to turn BOF into a business, not because necessarily I had spotted a gap in the market like some entrepreneurs do.
Right.
It was because I felt like there was a natural place for me to sit between the creative side and the business side of fashion. And of course, the fashion industry, it thrives on this tension and synergy between creativity and business. And I realized while I was sitting in that meditation retreat, that's probably where I belong. It wasn't going to throw away all of my business training because I'd worked really hard and it was really, really good training. But I needed to connect it to something more creative. And after spending so many months poking around the fashion industry while I was setting up that company, I really noticed that there was this big gap between the creative side of fashion and the business side of fashion. So in setting up BOF, or the Business of Fashion, as what was then a blog, I was really trying to fill that gap because that's where I could fit in. It wasn't about filling a market gap. It was really filling a gap that I could fill.
Yeah.
You know?
Which I think is so authentic, right? When you're looking at doing something as a career, you know, a lot of people go into things because their family want them to do it, or they think there's a gap in the market and they try to fill it. But this is so cool to hear this.
Yeah. And it felt like it was the result of a lot of internal reflection and work. Talking to a lot of my family and friends. I conducted a survey.
You did?
Well, this was like, I haven't really talked about this before, but before I went into that retreat, I was in a really low place in my life. And I think I was just looking for some kind of understanding of how my friends and family saw me. And I was the kind of person who was constantly worried about how other people perceived me. But this went deeper than that. I just really wanted an honest assessment of how they saw me. So I invited, you know, probably like 10 to 15 people, family and friends, to give me an honest assessment of me. And, you know, it was, in a way, it was like market research, but it was about me. It was like, how do you see me? You know, who am I? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How can I be the person I'm supposed to be?
I've never heard anyone do this before. This is such a good exercise.
It was eye-opening on a number of different levels. But one of the things that clearly, you know, came out from that is that, you know, I did have this like very unique combination of skills, you know, and I think working in corporate jobs, they sometimes like they can try to put you in boxes and, you know, you get rated on all of these dimensions, which of course, like all performance evaluations are like that. But I felt like the other things that I was able to bring to the table, they didn't really count there. Like there wasn't really a box for them. And then they were looking for what they called a spike. Like, and one of the conversations I was having with them is they were like, you don't have a spike. You're like not really good at one thing. You're very good at a lot of things. And one of the things I realized, it was actually the unique combination of all of those different things that I was very good at, if not excellent at. That's what my secret sauce might be, you know? And that was the feedback I also got from some of my friends and family, which was like, that I had this unique combination of skills. So that was like a really big aha moment for me.
I want to share something that could literally slow down how you age, inside and out. Let's talk about hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT. You've probably heard of it being used for athletes or wound healing, but what you may not know is the latest research is showing powerful benefits for cellular regeneration, brain health, and even reversing some biological markers of aging. Hyperbaric chamber works where you breathe in oxygen at higher than normal pressure. This process stimulates your tissues with oxygen and beyond what your body can normally get in. That extra oxygen jumpstarts your cells, helps natural repair processes, reduces inflammation, and boosts collagen production. It even stimulates the growth of new blood vessels. Studies have shown improvements in telomere length, which are kind of like protective caps on your DNA that shorten as you age. Longer telomeres, that's linked to healthier aging. If you're feeling the effects of aging, maybe it's slower recovery, brain fog, or skin that's lost its luster and glow, hyperbaric oxygen might be a powerful tool to help you feel sharper, stronger, and more vibrant. Go to oxyhealth.com, that's OXYHEALTH.com, and type in discount code HEALTHYDOC10 for your first order. You're one of the most trusted voices in fashion. What do you think, led you to this role? I know we just talked about some of the things. Like, is there anything about you culturally, or, why do you think you're the most trusted person in fashion? I know it's a big question.
That's a big question.
But you are. I think
because BOF was born in the digital era.
True. Yes.
And we were having this conversation in the car the other day. At the beginning, they called people like me bloggers.
Right.
And then they called them influencers.
Right.
And now they call them creators.
Yeah.
And whatever you call this whole wave of new media professionals that has emerged in the wake of social media, and by the way, blogs were the first form of social media. The thing that really connects digital content creators or digital editors like I was with their audiences is that there's this kind of transparency, this authenticity, this idea that you can just say what you really think, right? And so obviously I wasn't like shilling beauty products or like, reviewing fashion, websites or anything. I was covering the business side of fashion. It was really an analytical exercise. But in applying my analytical training to what was a fairly, an industry that wasn't often taken very seriously, that wasn't analyzed or treated like a big industry. And by the way, the fashion industry, as you said in your introduction, is, combined with fashion, beauty, and luxury, it's a $3 trillion industry. Hundreds of millions of people work in this industry. And yet the industry was, the mainstream media would treat fashion like this kind of fluffy, superficial endeavor. And like, but the way they would cover Fashion Week is they'd take the most outlandish thing that was put on the runway and plop it on the front page and kind of make some like snide remarks about it.
Yes.
And then the way the inside of the industry was kind of covering fashion was they worked very much in service of the brands of the fashion industry because their business model was based on advertising, right? So like they needed to ensure that they were covering the brands that were advertising in their publications. Meanwhile, I had no commercial goals whatsoever. I had no advertisers. I wasn't trying to sell anything. I was just trying to give my honest assessment on how I saw things. And I think it's that idea of like really saying what you think. Clearly BOF is not a blog today. We're now like a professionally run journalistic media company. There's,
it's huge.
An entire team of editors and writers who've been professionally trained in journalism, unlike me, because I kind of learned while I was doing. And one of the things our team works really hard at is giving really fair, balanced coverage that says what we really think. And it's that approach of providing balanced coverage, especially in a media environment where there's so much misinformation and disinformation, there's speculation, there's gossip, there's rumors. Like people are looking for something they can really trust. And if our readers trust us, that is really, really important because important to us because that is kind of where the journey of BOF started. It started by people building trust around, this, very ad hoc personal project from my sofa into like a really, respected media company.
And I think it's made such headway into fashion. It's exactly what you said. People think of fashion as this fluffy thing, and it can look like that, but there is a big business behind it. And there's cultural shifts with fashion that make huge impact. I guess the one thing I wanted to ask you, and I've always wanted to ask you, but as your really good friend, I always wanted to ask you like how fashion isn't kind. It's not a kind industry from what we see out there. And I wanted to just get your feedback on how do you deal with that? Like, how has it affected your mental health? And is it true that fashion isn't kind? Like,
well, first of all,
it's not always kind.
The way fashion is portrayed in reality television, in the media, it kind of plays upon this stereotype that, fashion people are all like running around with like daggers, like stabbing each other in the back, which is not really true.
Okay. That's good to know.
But it is a competitive industry. It is an industry that's increasingly in the global spotlight. It's a highly influential industry. And if you take the fashion industry and you combine that with the media industry, which is the other industry I work in, that is also, a culturally really important industry, very competitive. And the people who end up working in these industries, it's not easy to be it's not easy to break in, and it's not easy to succeed.
No.
And so, yes, sometimes there's competition and there's behavior that's challenging. I think the way the industry is portrayed in the media is a bit of a exaggeration, as a lot of things are. But it can be true that it can be a very tough place to work. I have found in particular that because I don't come from an establishment background, I don't come from, the kinds of people who often work, historically have worked in fashion and media, have come from, really privileged backgrounds where, to get to work as a free intern in a media company or a fashion company requires having a certain kind of financial support or system in order for you to even take a leap like that. That wasn't an option for me, So, it can feel like I'm still, even now that I'm sitting in this chair with you talking about this company I've built, like it can still be very challenging because I don't come from this industry. I wasn't trained in this industry. I was a complete outsider. But I've had to slowly but surely, relationship by relationship, try to earn the trust of, everyone who works in the industry. And like, I think really if I was being asked how the fashion industry should be portrayed, it is a relationship driven industry. It is a tight community of people. And, I have to say, like once people started reading BOF, there was a lot of people who were really kind and really curious about what I was doing. And they would invite me for lunch just because they wanted to learn more about what I was doing. And that was really nice. There've been a lot of extremely kind people who supported me at the very beginning before BOF was even something that, people were paying attention to. And so I've also seen a really nice part of the fashion industry. And the way I like to think of it is like, if you can build your relationships in this industry one by one by one, that really gives you the kind of support system that when things are challenging or when you need advice or when you're facing up to some of the behavior that can be sometimes, really, off-putting, that you have other people there to lift you up and support you.
Absolutely. And you created something fantastic. You created Voices. Voices is something that I've been personally lucky to attend.
You came to the very first one.
I came to the very first one, and I was also the very first panel on wellness, which we're going to get into in a minute. But it was so exciting to, every year I look forward to this event because you really have built this incredible community that it's such a special, when you leave at the end of it, you feel like you've made new relationships. You feel like you've done something in the world to make a change. You've learned something that you didn't know before. How did you come up with this Voices? Because it's literally brilliant.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. You are my friend, so.
From PMS to perimenopause to menopause to postmenopause, I've lived through it all. And through every stage, one thing becomes clear. Hormone fluctuations change how our bodies regulate temperature, especially at night. When your body overheats, even slightly, it disrupts deep, restorative sleep. The kind of sleep your hormones, metabolism, and mood depend on. That's why I can't live without my Rani Lounge pajamas. Their advanced technology activates natural fibers, making the fabric moisture resistant, naturally fresh, and ultra breathable, allowing your body to stay cool and regulate temperature the way nature intended. Better temperature control means deeper sleep, better recovery, and a body that feels truly at ease. Whether at home or traveling, staying cool, fresh, and comfortable has never felt so effortless. Go to RaniLounge.com, that's RaniLounge.com, and use my code HealthyDog15 and get 15% off your first order and experience sleep the way it was meant to be. No, but you're brilliant. You have literally brought in thought leaders, people from climate change, AI, talking about some really important information that we need to know. So no, I think you're being super humble. But tell us about, Voices. Like, what made you come up with that?
Well, it's interesting that you used the word feel because, oftentimes when I think about events, I think about how I want people to feel. And this idea of building and growing a community was there from the start. It's really interesting. In the fashion industry, I said it's a relationship-driven industry.
Yes.
But one of the observations that, we had early on was that there was this kind of community of people there, but no one was really gathering them together, right? No one was really activating that community. So several of the things that we've done in the early years of BOF as a business were really about activating that community. So that was one of the things that we had in mind with Voices. The other thing, there have been fashion events and conferences and gatherings. And by the way, we have Fashion Week,
Yeah. It's never
the
ending.
industry has a ton of events already. So if we were going to do something, not only did I want it to feel different, I wanted it to offer something really different. And because it is such a relationship-driven industry, because fashion people spend so much time together, you often get this phenomenon where like even the industry events are fashion people talking to fashion people about fashion. I mean, it's like
Yes.
the definition of an echo chamber. And so what we wanted to do was kind of bring in voices from outside fashion to help challenge that echo chamber, to help bring in new perspectives that were important, because fashion as an industry doesn't exist in a vacuum or in a bubble. It is existing in the context of wider shifts that are happening in business, the economy, culture, technology, social movements, political change, like all of these things impact how the fashion industry is working. And so what we were trying to do is just say, listen, this is not an event about the fashion industry. Fashion sits at the heart of the event. Like some of the key attendees and themes are kind of linked to what's happening in fashion. But more importantly, it was giving fashion, an opportunity to engage with the wider world. So we open with this session every year called The Wider World. And we cover politics, economics, climate change, activism, social change. Like there's all of these things that are, happening in the world that are impacting fashion. And that was the original genesis of Voices, which is this year going to be, it's going to be our 10th year. It's 10 years now.
Oh my, I can't believe
Can
10
you
years.
imagine?
I remember the first year coming to it and it being right off the bat successful in a heartbeat, because there was this thirst in your industry for community and gathering. And that's what I kept hearing the people, the attendees that were there, how they were feeling being there and how sad they were when it ended.
Well, it's interesting. We only did it for 2 days that year.
Yes.
And by the way, a lot went wrong. It was our first one.
No one would have ever
There
known.
was so many things that we hadn't really thought through.
Right.
So we learned a lot. But we also, based on the feedback we received, that it was too short, we extended it by a day. This is one of the things we really try to do at BOF is like we're always trying to learn and improve. So like after 10 years, we've really got a system in place for how that event needs to work. Every year we introduce little changes or tweaks or innovations or things that we're trying to make it better, because we believe that things can always be better. But yeah, I mean, it might have seemed like a huge success in the first year, and it was in terms of like laying the stake, like planting a stake and saying this is something different. But I should be really honest, like there was a lot we had to learn.
I have to say, I came to the first one. I was a speaker at the first one. You kindly had me on a panel. I thought it was brilliant. Speaking of which, like I'm a naturopathic doctor. I attended Voices for the first time, was on a wellness panel. That was amazing. What kind of, people, I feel like people need to know that, pretty much anyone can attend Voices. Is it can anyone attend in these different industries? Who can attend?
Well, anyone attend and can watch virtually, because we open it up to all of our members. So, you mentioned in your introduction, we have over 100,000 members in 125 countries. So part of the benefit of their membership is they can watch. But the truth is, it's a very small event. It's like 180 people.
Right.
And so what we're really trying to do is curate a group of people that's a reflection of the world that we live in. Right. We're trying to bring in a mix of people representing different cultures, different backgrounds, different lived experiences, different industries, different age groups, different perspectives and you put a bunch of really clever, passionate, ambitious, curious people in a room together.
Oh, it's magic.
And it really is like magic. I mean, they just kind of like, all we have to do is work really hard to get the right group of people together.
Yes.
And then they do the rest of the work, you know, and they leave in part so moved and so changed because we're giving them the intellectual spark, the thing that's going to lead to an interesting conversation, the thing that's going to challenge them and make them feel a bit uncomfortable. And then they're going to exchange about all of the things that they're seeing on stage and learning. They're going to exchange in all of the other activities that we have around the event. Because the other thing that, as you know, is it's not just about what's happening on stage. It's everything we do is planned and curated around the experience that we want people to have and the way we want people to feel.
And how to bring that all into a community of people that are, you know, egging each other on, you know, firing each other up and doing it in a way that's going to really help, you know, with world issues, you know, like real world issues.
Yeah.
Not just thinking fashion is some fluff thing. It's
Exactly.
it's a community of people that are making big changes. I want to pivot to wellness
Okay.
because I'm in wellness.
Of course. I mean, we had to get to that topic at some stage.
Yeah, wellness is a new fashion. Come on. When do you think the fashion industry is going to catch on to the fact that, you know, people don't just want, you know, a new bag every year. People are focused on wellness. You know, since COVID, we've seen a major shift. And, you know, even before COVID, I personally have noticed a shift in the way consumers are spending their time and their money on like experiences and health, optimal health, not just health, optimal health and well-being. When do you think fashion is going to catch up to that or realize that? I know you've caught up you know, BOF has caught up with that, but what do you think of the fashion industry?
Well, interestingly, you know, when I invited you to speak at Voices back in 2016, it was because I'd attended this conference called Revitalize, which was hosted by this, you know, another startup media company called Mind Body Green.
Yes.
And the founder, Jason, invited me to come and attend this event. And I came to that event and I learned so much about what was happening in the wellness industry. So I learned about telomeres and like all, you know, the microbiome and all these things that like have become part of our kind of common parlance now, language that everyone is using. But this was back in, I don't know, 2014 or 2013 when like really that those terms hadn't broken in.
No.
But the other thing that I really took away from that event is like all of the attendees were like hugely accomplished, very affluent, wealthy people who were starting to, and it was like, obviously it was like a sharp, very sharp edge,
right?
Like the leading edge of people. They were focused on lifespan and health span and, you know, improving digestion and like all of these things that have become, you know, much, much more, you know, widely understood in the last decade or so. And so it occurred to me back then that people were actually starting to think differently about the way they were allocating their disposable income. And let's be honest, spending on fashion and beauty and luxury, it's a discretionary expense, right? Mm-hmm. It's people are choosing to spend their money. And you know, you mentioned COVID. I think COVID was a real tipping point for a lot of people. We were already seeing particularly younger customers focus more on the idea of experiences over physical products before COVID. And I think the other layer that got inserted into that during COVID was this whole idea of wellness. I think COVID brought, for each of us in our own way, it brought health front of mind. It brought the fragility of life front of mind. And I think coming out of it, one of the lasting effects of COVID is that people are a lot more attentive to the way they live their lives, and people are spending more of their time and also more of their money on ensuring that they have the kind of quality of life that they want. And what does that mean? That means healthy food, that means retreats, that means gym memberships, that means certain diets, that means naturopathic treatments, that means all sorts of things that combine together help solve an individual's personal issues, struggles, both mental and physical, to lead a better life. And I think that is really what, the fashion, beauty, and luxury industries are now competing with, is that alongside those other verticals, there's travel and hospitality, and there's wellness, and there's the intersection of wellness and travel. That's also quite interesting because people are often like going on these experiential holidays. And I think this idea of investing in yourself and investing in experiences, that's really, where, some people are choosing to spend more and more of their money. So what does that mean for the fashion industry? What does that mean for the luxury industry? Is like those industries are now thinking a lot more about these topics. They know that their clients are looking for those kinds of experiences. They're providing their clients with these kinds of experiences. And so, yeah, I think it's a very interesting moment because, in the same way that, social media has meant that any brand, whether it be a fashion or beauty brand or a television show or a sports team, everyone is competing for people's attention in the same feed of content. And now people are also, those same industries, those same people are competing for people's wallet, and it's coming from everywhere. And so I see wellness, health and wellness as, taking a greater and greater share of people's discretionary income.
I've built my entire clinical philosophy and even wrote a book called Younger Skin Starts in the Gut around one simple truth. If your gut isn't optimal, nothing else works. Genova Diagnostics' GI Effects test is the gold standard in functional stool testing, mapping your microbiome, digestion, inflammation, and nutrient absorption with clinical precision. It's a crappy job, but someone has to do it. And no one does it better than Genova. Visit genovaconnect.com and use my code HEALTHYDOC15 for 15% off your first stool test. Do you think Chanel and Louis Vuitton are going to come out with a protein shake?
I don't know, but people,
you never know.
People didn't think that, Chanel or Louis Vuitton, Vuitton has opened restaurants now. They've got a restaurant in the Doha airport. Dior has spas, that's health and wellness. They're doing treatments, they're facials, massages. So those brands are moving into these experiential elements as well.
Because I feel like they're customers. I mean, when you are a customer of a luxury brand like Chanel or Louis Vuitton, is it almost like the customer is asking for different things? They're on a mailing list. They're on they get special service in the store, they get somebody to come to their home and do the alterations. There's a level of service the luxury brands are offering to their customers. Do you think that's enough?
I mean, that level of service is like table stakes now. So what the brands are trying to do is they're trying to create moments where they can engage with their customers on a deeper level. So one of the other things that we saw during COVID is some of these brands started moving into home and design and hotels and hospitality. And in doing research on what those kind of luxury customers are looking for when they're engaging with those brands, is they want to engage with those brands so that they can go deeper into those brands. What those brands find is that when customers are engaging with them in these other verticals, they end up engaging with them more in the core fashion and beauty categories as well. So it helps to like dimensionalize and extend the relationship that fashion companies have with their customers. And especially for like that very, very slim slice of customers at the top, like say less than 5% of customers that drive 40% of the revenues of the industry. They're really focusing on those, what we call VIC customers, very important customers, and trying to find ways of engaging with them. And there's almost like an arms race now of like which brand can figure out which experience to offer its customers that's going to really, win that customer's attention. Because these very, very high net worth customers, they get invited to tons of things. So if you really offer something special, it's an opportunity for you to engage with that customer over a longer period of time in a captive way. They kind of have them as captives, right? They come for like a 48-hour experience in some beautiful hotel or destination around the world. And that's a way of really immersing them in the 360-degree universe of that brand.
Interesting. Do you not think that these fashion houses, though, they're not missing you've got a very important customer, but what about the clients that are, not in that top level, but, do buy like a Louis Vuitton bag or like a Chanel pair of shoes? They're, maybe not buying like all the clothing and everything. They're missing that whole sort of bracket of people that are super interested in wellness.
Those customers are important. All customers are important.
Yes, of course.
Some of those customers have fallen away during COVID, after COVID rather.
I think so, yeah.
Because
all of us did.
they've been, we've been in a cost of living crisis. There's been inflation. So customers, as you moved further down that kind of discretionary income pyramid, more and more of those customers have fallen away. And the customers that were hit the hardest by the cost of living crisis and inflation were the aspirational customers whose bank accounts are kind of like bursting during COVID with stimulus checks and, extra money they had because they weren't spending it on travel and other things. Now those customers have gone back, and they're spending money across a wider variety of things now. But no, I think, all customers are obviously important, but that group of customers at the top, they drive so much profit for these luxury companies that they do get special attention.
While we're on the wellness wagon, what are some of your wellness rituals that you do to ground yourself and keep yourself going? Because I know you're on a plane. Every time I talk to you or text you, you're on a plane. What are you doing for yourself? What are your go-tos?
It's a good question. So I just turned 50.
I know. I celebrated your birthday with you.
Yeah. And, obviously as you get older, you really begin to think about, how you're, I'm like everyone else. I'm like, am I taking care of myself? I think I had a real reckoning about this. It was about 5 or 6 years into BOF, and I'd become very busy. And, as you said, I was like traveling all the time. I'm still traveling a lot, but I was traveling all the time. I was lucky to have so many opportunities. I was being pulled in so many directions. And then one day I was diagnosed with shingles. And, for people who don't know, shingles is, it's actually the chickenpox virus. And it kind of, that virus, you never get rid of it. It kind of embeds itself in your nervous system. And when you are run down and you're not resting properly and you're not eating properly, it seizes the opportunity to really come back. And it comes back in this kind of very virulent, very painful manifestation called shingles. And so when I got shingles, it was kind of a reality check for me because, I'd been the kind of person who could sleep. I used to wake up at like 4 a.m. and work. I didn't sleep very much. I did not eat very well. And from that moment on, I realized, okay, I am not.
I need to get my act together.
Well, yeah, and I'm not Superman. And I think I met you shortly after that, actually, and you gave me quite a talking to about the way I was, treating myself and my body. I think my core rituals now are like quite simple. I really prioritize sleep. I mean, I wish someone had told me when I was younger how important.
I know. Why did they tell us? It's
People
so
don't.
important.
Sleep is just
reparative.
Critical. So like for me, even when I'm traveling in different time zones, or I'm on an airplane, I have little rituals, which is going to sound crazy, but I always put an eye mask on and I have headphones.
Right.
And it just like noise canceling headphones. And it just like, even if I'm on a plane or if I'm in a hotel where like I'm not familiar with the noises.
Yes.
Or if there's other things that are disturbing me, I have something
to block it out.
Right.
I also think your husband is really good, Nick Hill. He's brilliant at helping you keep healthy because he's like
he helps me keep healthy, but he also has a completely different sleep pattern from me. And
yes,
so
that's
like
true.
Part of the reason I need the earphones is because like it's almost a visual signal. It's not about blocking him out necessarily, but he knows that when that's going on, I'm done for the day.
Right.
Right. So like that's like because I need that sleep.
Yes.
And I try to go to bed between 10 and 11 every night, which gives me between 7 and 8 hours of sleep every night.
Amazing.
If there was like one thing I prioritize as like a like wellness ritual, it's that. I do try to take my supplements, but I'm not so good at that. I know I should take vitamin D every day. I forget, even when,
I hand it to you
when
in
you
a
hand
bottle.
it to me like you did yesterday, and I was like falling asleep. But I try my best.
Yeah.
Like I think the other thing is, and I think this is also a wellness ritual, is like you can't be perfect at everything.
Yes.
And I was the kind of kid growing up where I was like constantly trying to be perfect
Right.
at everything. And so I'm also being kinder to myself, which is like, I'm not going to be perfect.
That's the best answer ever.
Right? I'm
Yes,
not going
I
to be
think you're
perfect every
right.
day at work.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be perfect every day
No.
in my personal life. I'm just going to do the best I can and make sure I try to learn. And so at the end of the day, I also do an assessment, kind of a natural assessment about like, well, how did today go?
Yes.
Like, what was I proud of? And what was I not proud of? And what did I learn? And what would I do differently? And if I can do that, and if I can improve, just like I want my company to improve voices every year, I want to improve every day, then that's good.
What would be one misconception people would have about you if they didn't know you?
Well, I think when people get to know you through a screen, as most people have gotten to know me from afar, I think people think I'm more serious than I really am. I mean, my
Little
friends,
do they know.
my friends and family know that I'm actually quite a goofy personality, and I'm fun,
Super fun.
and I love to have a good time, and I'm a very energetic, optimistic, positive person. I don't know if that always translates through, the way I come across, because I write about serious things, and I think seriously about the world, and I take my work seriously, and I don't ever want to diminish my work. I don't ever want to, for me, it's really serious, and I want to take it seriously. But for people who only know me through that lens, they miss out on a whole other part of me, and so
Totally.
I guess people think I'm more serious than I am. I am serious, like
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
You
Take my
definitely
work
can be
seriously.
serious. Yes.
Take my work seriously.
Yes.
I'm very meticulous and disciplined about the way I work, but I'm also kind of goofy.
True wellness lives in the smallest details: the air you breathe, the water you wash with, and the surfaces you touch. That's why Koala Eco, with their beautiful botanical ranges for home, laundry, body, and even pets, is the only brand I trust. Elegant living without compromise. Visit koalaeco.com, that's KOALAECO.com, and use my code HealthyDoc15 for 15% off your first order. I have a question for you because I try to see you doing something else and I have a really hard time picturing it as your friend and somebody that's known you for a long time. Say you weren't doing BOF. What do you think you'd be doing?
I honestly don't know, because I feel like I kind of have a job that I made for myself, right?
Yeah, you literally
It's-
custom designed it.
It's like I made this job around the things that I love to do and the talents that I'm blessed to have, and that my parents nurtured in me. And so there's an analytical element to my job, there's a creative element to my job, there's a stage element to my job, and all of these things were things that I was nurtured to do growing up. There's one thing that I used to do for about 10 years was I taught a business course at Central St. Martin's, the fashion school in London. And sadly, at some point, I just didn't have the bandwidth to continue teaching that course. But I love teaching. I love engaging with young, smart, creative people. My mom was a teacher. When I was growing up, she taught grade 3 in Canada, and I think maybe I have a bit of that DNA in me. The thing I love about teaching is that, at least for me, I was there to educate these students on how the business side of fashion works. But I learned so much from them. It's like having this like focus group and plugging into it and understanding like what designers the current generation of fashion students is excited about, what creative references they have, what topics and issues are they really passionate about, what's urgent to them, how are they thinking about things that are going on in the world. And the older and older you get, the further and further you are away from the way an 18-year-old fashion student is thinking about the world. And I found that so interesting. And the students were also from all over the world, right? So it was like a really global mix of students. So like, I guess maybe I'd be a teacher or a professor.
I could see that actually. I could see you being a really good professor. So Imran, I want you to finish this sentence. Fashion is
a mirror, a reflection of culture, of society. It's interesting. If you look at pictures in history and you want to figure out when the picture was taken, you might be in front of the same building and the building looks the same, but the thing that changes is what people are wearing. And you can really understand the time period. So if you look at, what people were wearing during the civil rights movement, what people were wearing in the 70s during like the era of like disco and everything that was going on. I mean, fashion really gives you a sense of what's happening in the world and the way people are expressing themselves. So yeah, fashion is a mirror.
I love that. I want to end off by asking you one last question. And this is about expressing yourself. What do you think, you know the 5 love languages. What do you think your love languages are? I'm just curious.
So the 5 love languages are acts of service, gift giving, affirmations, physical touch, and quality time. Yeah, for me, I think it's physical touch. I think from a young age, I just felt very safe with my mom, and I had quite a challenging childhood. And so I think what really gave me comfort was like a hug, and one of the things that I do now is I still give and receive a lot of hugs.
You do. You're very huggy.
Even within our own company. The other day I was with 2 of my colleagues and we were in Paris and we came out of a meeting and one of them reached out to shake my hand and he's like, "What am I doing?" And then he gave me a hug. And it's like kind of embedded in the culture of our company. Our chief people officer, Haley, is also really well known for her hugs. And at Voices, when our team is working so hard to pull that event off, we give out Voices hugs and high fives.
I love it.
So I don't know, like I think it's just kind of permeated into like even into my company.
Well, your husband's also very huggy, and I love that. You guys hug a lot. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, we have this kind of like ritual. Like I'm usually up early in the morning around 6 or 7 and I'm working, and then when he gets up I get out of my chair and the first thing we do is we just give each other a hug. Yeah, so it's
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end off by giving you a gift. I know it's not one of your love languages. Damn, a lot of people have this love language as gifts. So I want to give this to you. It could be lots of things. You know what it's gonna be? It's a poop test. It's a 3-day poop test that I want you to do.
I mean,
I know everyone has that. It's
the first time Nigma gave me a poop test,
what year was that? I think it was a long time ago.
I mean, first of all, I had to get comfortable with talking about my poop with Nigma. I've become more comfortable with poop tests, and I understand the value of checking in.
Yeah. Well, you're going to take it back with you.
Can that be shipped internationally?
It can. I have a special poop test for you.
Okay.
That you're going to do in the
Okay.
UK, because Genova is also found in the UK. It's a 3-day. It's going to measure the entire gut microbiome, who's living there, why it's living there, telling us why our immune system gets depleted. So yes, this is my love language to you, to give you a poop test.
Well, thank you for my poop
And,
test.
Mark my words, Imran, poop is going to be the new fashion. I guarantee you. Remember that.
Fashion is the new poop, and poop is the new fashion.
Yep. You'll see. Everybody's talking shit. Anyways, it was amazing to have you
Thank
here
you.
with me. I learned so much about you, even though I know you so well as a friend. This was a really beautiful conversation. Thank you for coming.
And thank you for your questions.